Hello there and welcome to the journey. Tonight, we're going to travel together through the rain-soaked highways of America, where the rhythmic patter of droplets on windshields becomes a lullaby, and the endless stretch of asphalt tells 1,000 stories. Get comfortable. Take a deep breath. Let the sound of distant thunder and the gentle whoosh of tires on wet pavement wash over you. We're about to embark on a cross-country drive through the eyes of those who know these roads best, the long-haul truckers who spend their lives navigating the veins and arteries of this vast nation. So settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let me take you on a journey through the rain, through the night, through the stories that unfold mile after mile on America's highways. The rain started somewhere around Amarillo. That's how these things always begin, Jake Thompson would tell you. He's been driving 18-wheelers for 23 years now, and he's learned to read the sky like an old sailor reads the sea. The way the clouds gather on the western horizon, building up like mountains of gray cotton. The particular smell in the air when you stop for fuel, that electric scent that promises a storm is coming. Jake remembers his first long haul in the rain. Fresh out of trucking school, barely 22 years old, and thinking he knew everything there was to know about driving. His trainer, a weathered man named Curtis with 30 years on the road, sat in the passenger seat and barely said a word as they pulled out of the truck stop in Oklahoma City. The rain started light, just a mist really, but within 20 miles it had built into a proper downpour. "You're gripping that wheel too tight, son," Curtis had said, his voice calm as a Sunday morning. "The road's gonna do what the road's gonna do. You just guide her through it, don't fight it." That lesson, Jake says, applied to more than just driving in the rain. It was a philosophy for life on the road, for dealing with dispatchers who didn't understand physics, for handling the loneliness of being away from home for weeks at a time, for accepting that sometimes plans change and you just have to roll with it. The American highway system is a wonder, really. Interstate 40 alone stretches from Barstow, California, to Wilmington, North Carolina, covering over 2,600 miles. Imagine that. You could start your journey where the Mojave Desert meets civilization, drive through the painted deserts of Arizona, across the plains of Texas and Oklahoma, through the green hills of Arkansas and Tennessee, and end up smelling the salt air of the Atlantic Ocean. And truckers like Jake make that journey dozens of times a year, carrying everything from fresh produce to manufacturing equipment, from consumer goods to the very materials that build our homes and businesses. When it rains on the interstate, the character of the road changes entirely. The white lines become rivers of reflected light. The red taillights ahead bloom into fuzzy orbs in the mist. The sound inside the cab becomes a cocoon of drumming water, punctuated by the rhythmic thump-thump of the wipers and the occasional spray from a passing vehicle. Maria Santos drives a flatbed, one of the trickier assignments in the trucking world. While van drivers have their cargo protected in an enclosed trailer, flatbed drivers haul everything from steel beams to construction equipment, all strapped down and exposed to the elements. When Maria gets a call for a load, one of her first questions is always about the weather forecast for the route. She learned this the hard way on a run from Houston to Minneapolis. The load was a series of large industrial fans, each one carefully secured to her flatbed with chains and straps. The forecast called for clear skies, but weather in America is notoriously unpredictable, especially in spring. Somewhere in Missouri, the skies opened up with a vengeance. Maria pulled over at the next truck stop and spent an hour in the rain, double-checking every strap, every chain, every tie-down point. She was soaked to the bone, her fingers numb from the cold water, but she knew the cargo was her responsibility. That's the thing about truckers, they take that responsibility seriously. That load represents someone's business, someone's livelihood, maybe even someone's dream. "People don't think about it," Maria often says, "but everything around you, everything in your home, your office, the store where you shop, it all came on a truck. Somebody drove through the night. through the rain, through the snow, to make sure you had what you needed. The truck stops along America's highways are worlds unto themselves. In the rain, they become refuges, oases of light and warmth in the darkness. Pull into a Flying J or a Love's Travel stop at 2 in the morning during a rainstorm, and you'll find dozens of trucks lined up in neat rows, their running lights glowing like a small city. Inside, the 24-hour restaurant serves coffee that's strong enough to strip paint, and the conversation flows as freely as the rain outside. Tommy Reed spent 15 years driving before a back injury forced him behind the counter of a truck stop diner in Tennessee. He limps a little when he walks, but he can pour coffee and flip eggs with the best of them, and he's got a story for every trucker who sits at his counter. "See that guy over there?" Tommy might say, nodding toward a driver hunched over a plate of biscuits and gravy. "That's Rick Miller. He once drove through a tornado in Kansas. Not near a tornado through it. Said his empty trailer lifted off the ground while he was doing 70. Somehow he kept it on the road, said a prayer, and made it out the other side." These stories circulate through the trucking community like folklore, passed from driver to driver at fuel stops and weigh stations, embellished a little with each telling perhaps, but rooted in the very real dangers and challenges of life on the road. The rain brings its own set of challenges beyond just visibility and traction. Hydroplaning is every driver's nightmare, that moment when the tires lose contact with the road and you're essentially floating on a thin layer of water with no steering and no braking. For a vehicle that can weigh up to 80,000 pounds when fully loaded, hydroplaning is not just dangerous, it's potentially catastrophic. Veteran drivers like Sarah Chen, who's been hauling refrigerated goods across the western states for 18 years, know the warning signs. "You feel it in your hands first," she explains. "The steering wheel gets light, almost loose feeling. That's when you ease off the throttle, no sudden moves, and wait for your tires to bite again. You never ever hit the brakes." Sarah drives mostly at night, which she prefers. The roads are less crowded, the traffic smoother, and there's something peaceful about the darkness punctuated only by her headlights and the lights of distant towns. But night driving in the rain requires a special kind of focus. The darkness compounds the poor visibility, and fatigue becomes a real enemy. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has strict rules about hours of service. Drivers can't be on duty for more than 14 hours, with a maximum of 11 hours of driving time, followed by a mandatory 10-hour break. These regulations exist for good reason, but they also mean drivers are constantly planning their routes around where they can legally and safely park for their rest periods. Finding a parking spot at a truck stop during a rainstorm can be like finding a needle in a haystack. The popular stops fill up early, and nobody wants to sleep at a rest area in bad weather if they can help it. The security of a truck stop, with its lights and people and facilities, offers comfort that a dark rest area simply can't match. Robert Williams has been driving team with his brother Marcus for 12 years. Team driving means one person sleeps while the other drives, allowing the truck to cover more miles in less time. It's efficient, but it also means learning to sleep while the vehicle is in motion, through all kinds of weather and road conditions. "You get used to it," Marcus says. "The motion becomes soothing after a while. I sleep better in the truck than I do in my own bed at home now, which my wife finds hilarious. But there's something about that gentle swaying, the sound of the tires on the road, even the rain on the roof. It's like being rocked to sleep." The brothers haul electronics mostly, time-sensitive deliveries that need to move fast. They've developed a rhythm over the years, an unspoken understanding of when one needs a break, when the other is at his sharpest. The rain doesn't slow them down much, they've driven through worse. Hurricanes on the Gulf Coast, blizzards in the Rockies, ice storms in the Midwest. Every region of America has its own character, its own challenges, especially in bad weather. The Pacific Northwest brings persistent drizzle that can last for days. testing a driver's patience and windshield wipers. The Great Plains offer thunderstorms of biblical proportions, with lightning that turns night into day and winds that can push a trailer sideways. The Southeast delivers afternoon thunderstorms in summer that are intense but usually brief, leaving the roads steaming in the humidity. The Southwest, when it does rain, faces flash flooding that can turn a dry wash into a raging river in minutes. Interstate 80, stretching from San Francisco to New York City, is one of the main arteries of American commerce. In winter, the stretch through Wyoming and Nebraska can be brutal, but even in summer, thunderstorms can turn it treacherous. Linda Patterson has been running I-80 for over a decade, and she's seen it all. She remembers one particular night in Iowa. The rain was coming down so hard that even with her wipers on full speed, she could barely see 10 feet ahead. The traffic had slowed to a crawl, every vehicle with its hazard lights flashing, creating a river of orange blinkers stretching into the distance. That's when you see the true professionals, Linda recalls. The ones who slow down, maintain their spacing, stay calm. And then you see the cowboys, the four-wheelers who think their SUV can handle anything, flying past at 70 miles an hour and spraying everyone else with water. We all saw the same accident scene 20 miles up the road, 3 cars in the ditch. We just shook our heads and kept rolling carefully. The relationship between truckers and what they call four-wheelers, meaning regular passenger vehicles, is complex. Most truckers are incredibly safety conscious. They have to be. Their livelihood depends on maintaining a clean driving record, and they're very aware that they're piloting a vehicle that can cause serious damage in an accident. But they also get frustrated with drivers who don't understand how trucks operate, who cut them off in traffic, who don't realize that a loaded semi-truck needs much more distance to stop than a car. In the rain, these frustrations multiply. Visibility is reduced for everyone, stopping distances increase, and the spray from a truck's tires can momentarily blind a driver who follows too closely. The experienced truckers maintain extra following distance, resist the urge to drive faster than conditions allow, and stay in the right lanes except when passing. David Kowalski, who specializes in hauling hazardous materials, takes safety to another level. His loads require special placards, additional training, and heightened awareness. When it rains, he sometimes pulls over and waits for the worst to pass, even if it means being late to his delivery. People don't understand, he says. I might be hauling chemicals, or fuel, or other materials that could cause real problems in an accident. A few hours' delay is nothing compared to the potential consequences of pushing through dangerous conditions. My dispatcher might not love it, but safety always comes first. The relationships truckers build with their dispatchers vary wildly. Some dispatchers are former drivers who understand the realities of the road. Others have never been behind the wheel and sometimes push for delivery times that aren't realistic or safe. The best trucking companies foster communication and trust between drivers and dispatch, understanding that the person behind the wheel has the clearest picture of what's possible. Rain also affects the economics of trucking in ways most people never consider. Fuel efficiency drops in wet conditions. The increased resistance and the need to run wipers and, sometimes, additional lights means each mile costs a little more. For owner-operators, drivers who own their own trucks and contract with companies for loads, every penny matters. They're not just drivers, they're small business owners, managing maintenance costs, fuel expenses, insurance, and all the other overhead that comes with running a trucking operation. Carlos Mendez bought his first truck 5 years ago after driving for a company for 8 years. He saved every extra penny, learned everything he could about mechanics and business management, and finally took the leap to become an owner-operator. The first year was tough. There always seemed to be an unexpected expense, a breakdown, a slow period with fewer loads. But Carlos loves the independence. He chooses his routes, his loads, his schedule. When it rains hard, He can decide to park and wait it out without having to justify his decision to anyone but himself, and ultimately, his bank account. The trade-off is worth it to him, this freedom, this sense of being his own boss. The truck itself becomes more than just a vehicle when you spend this much time in it. It becomes home, office, and sanctuary all at once. Drivers customize their cabs with personal touches. Photos of family, small refrigerators, custom seats, upgraded sound systems, special mattresses for the sleeper berth. Some have microwaves and coffee makers, portable DVD players, even small televisions. Angela Price, who's been driving for 9 years, has turned her sleeper berth into what she calls her mobile apartment. She has organizers for her clothes, a small library of audiobooks and novels, plants that somehow survive the constant motion, and a quilt her grandmother made that covers her bed. When she pulls the curtain closed and settles in for her rest period, with the rain drumming on the roof of her cab, she's perfectly content. Some people couldn't handle this life, she admits. The solitude gets to them. But I'm an introvert by nature. I love people, don't get me wrong, but I also need my quiet time, my space to think. This job gives me that. I spend my driving time listening to podcasts and audiobooks, learning new things, thinking about life. Then when I get home for my time off, I'm ready to be social, to catch up with friends and family. The balance between life on the road and life at home is perhaps the biggest challenge for truckers, more than the weather or the long hours or the physical demands. Many truckers are away from home for weeks at a time. They miss birthdays, anniversaries, their kids' school events, holidays. The divorce rate in the trucking industry is high. The relationships that survive require tremendous understanding and communication. James Butler and his wife Rebecca have made it work for 17 years. James drives regional routes now, home every weekend, but for the first 10 years of his career, he was long haul, sometimes gone for a month at a stretch. They credit technology with helping bridge the distance. Video calls, texting, constant communication help them feel connected even when separated by hundreds or thousands of miles. The rain actually helped sometimes, Rebecca remembers with a smile. When James would pull over during a storm, we'd talk for hours. The sound of the rain in the background, knowing he was safe and parked, those became some of our best conversations. We talk about everything, dreams, plans, memories, just connecting on a deeper level than we sometimes did when he was home, and we were both busy with daily life. The truck stop culture is rich and varied. You find drivers from every background, every race, every part of the country, all united by this common experience of life on the road. The rain doesn't discriminate. It falls on everyone equally, and there's a camaraderie that develops among drivers weathering a storm together. Late-night conversations in truck stop diners cover every topic imaginable: politics, philosophy, sports, technology, family, dreams, regrets. Drivers who might never interact in their daily lives find common ground over coffee and pie at 3 in the morning while rain sheets against the windows. There are the characters, too. Every truck stop has them. The driver who's been on the road for 40 years and has a story about every mile of every major highway. The young rookie full of enthusiasm and questions. The quiet driver who sits alone but will help anyone who needs it. The comedian who keeps everyone laughing. The philosopher who makes everyone think. George Patterson, now retired after 35 years of driving, used to be known as the mayor of a particular truck stop in New Mexico. He'd hold court at the counter, dispensing advice to younger drivers, sharing news from different parts of the country, helping solve problems. When drivers had mechanical issues, George knew which shops were honest and which would overcharge. When they needed routing advice, George knew every shortcut and every road to avoid. "The road teaches you about people," George would say. "You see humanity at its best and worst." The driver who stops to help a stranded motorist in the rain, risking his own schedule. The person who shares their food when someone's fallen on hard times. but also the jerks who cut you off, the ones who throw trash on the highway, the ones who park in the fuel lanes and then go take a shower. Life on the road is just life, concentrated and magnified. The highways themselves have personalities, histories, stories embedded in their asphalt. Route 66, though largely bypassed by the interstate system, still holds a romantic place in American imagination. The Alaska Highway, stretching through Canada into the last frontier, presents challenges unlike anywhere else. The Dalton Highway in Alaska, featured in reality TV shows, is one of the most dangerous roads in the world, especially in winter. But it's the everyday interstates, the I-95s and I-40s and I-80s, where the real work of American commerce happens. These are the roads where drivers spend most of their time, where they know every rest area, every truck stop, every steep grade and tight curve. In the rain, even familiar roads become new again. That stretch of I-75 through Kentucky that you've driven 100 times suddenly requires fresh attention when water is pooling in the low spots. The exit ramp you usually take at 50 needs to be approached at 35 when it's wet. Experience and caution must work together. Weather-related accidents are a constant concern. Truckers listen to CB radios and traffic apps, warning each other about conditions ahead. There's a lot of water over the road at mile marker 247, someone will report. Bear in the bushes at mile marker 180 means a police officer is running radar. Full-grown bear means a way station is open and scales are active. The CB radio, once the primary communication tool for truckers, has been supplemented but not replaced by smartphones and apps. There's still something immediate and communal about the CB. In a storm, hearing other drivers' voices, sharing information, it creates a sense of shared experience that helps combat the isolation. Mitchell Torres, a third-generation trucker whose grandfather drove before the interstate system existed, loves hearing the old-timers on the CB. They still use the traditional trucker slang, calling trucks rigs and police officers smoky bears, referring to their full tankers as rolling with a heavy load, and their empty trailers as running naked. It's a language and culture that's evolved over decades, though it's slowly changing as newer drivers bring different communication styles to the road. The physical demands of trucking are often underestimated. Yes, you're sitting for long hours, but you're also constantly active mentally, scanning the road, checking mirrors, making decisions. Loading and unloading freight, even with modern equipment, can be physically taxing. Climbing in and out of the cab dozens of times a day takes its toll. The irregular schedule, eating on the run, sleeping in a moving vehicle, all of it adds up. Smart drivers make health a priority. They pack their own food rather than relying solely on truck stop fare. They use rest periods to walk, stretch, exercise. They monitor their blood pressure and cholesterol, knowing that the sedentary nature of the job combined with irregular schedules can create health problems. Dr. Sarah Kim, a physician who specializes in occupational health, has worked with trucking companies to improve driver wellness. The statistics are concerning, she notes. Truckers have higher rates of obesity, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and other chronic conditions compared to the general population. But the drivers who take proactive steps, who prioritize their health despite the challenges of the job, they do much better. Some companies now have wellness programs specifically designed for drivers, offering incentives for health screenings, fitness activities, healthy eating. Progressive companies recognize that a healthy driver is a safer driver, with lower insurance costs and better retention rates. The rain continues, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Interstate 5 through California's Central Valley can see winter rain that lasts for weeks, turning the usually brown hills vibrant green. The Gulf Coast experiences almost daily afternoon thunderstorms in summer. The Appalachian region gets steady rain that wraps the mountains in mist and fog. Through it all, the trucks keep rolling. Fresh produce from California's farms needs to reach markets on the East Coast. Manufacturing components from the Midwest need to arrive at assembly plants in the South. Consumer goods from ports on both coasts need distribution to stores across the nation. The American economy literally depends on truckers making their deliveries regardless of weather conditions. Frank Morrison, an economist who studies transportation and logistics, points out that the trucking industry moves over 70% of all freight in the United States by weight. When people talk about supply chains, he explains, they often focus on ships and planes and trains. But the last mile, and often the last several hundred miles, that's trucks. Without truckers, our economy stops. It's that simple. The pandemic of 2020 and its aftermath highlighted this reality. While much of the country shut down, truckers kept moving, delivering essential goods, taking risks to keep supplies flowing. Many Americans gained a new appreciation for these highway heroes, though drivers themselves will tell you they were just doing their jobs, same as always. The weather doesn't stop for pandemics or economic downturns or anything else. Rain, snow, wind, it all keeps coming, and the drivers keep adapting. They've driven through hurricanes evacuating the Gulf Coast, their trucks loaded with emergency supplies for the displaced. They've driven through wildfire smoke so thick they could barely breathe, much less see. They've driven through ice storms that turned highways into skating rinks. Daniel Park still talks about driving through Hurricane Katrina's aftermath in 2005. He was hauling water and emergency supplies into the disaster zone, part of the massive relief effort. The destruction was unbelievable, he recalls. But what I remember most was the other truckers. We were all there, dozens of us, hundreds of us, doing what we could to help. Nobody asked for medals or recognition. We just delivered our loads and headed back for more. There's a nobility in that, in showing up and doing the work regardless of conditions. It's not glamorous. Nobody makes movies about truckers sitting in traffic in the rain, or carefully navigating through a storm, or spending 14 hours behind the wheel to make a delivery deadline. But it's essential work, work that matters, work that keeps the country functioning. The rain begins to let up, as it always does eventually. The clouds break apart, revealing patches of clear sky. Maybe a few stars become visible, or the moon emerges, its light reflecting off the wet pavement like a river of silver. The wipers can slow their rhythm. Visibility improves. Drivers can ease up on their white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel, roll their shoulders to release the tension, take a deep breath. But they stay alert. Rain-slicked roads remain dangerous even after the precipitation stops. And weather in America is fickle. The next storm system might already be building on the horizon. You check the forecast, plan your next move, calculate whether you can make your delivery window or need to call dispatch with an updated ETA. Lisa Rodriguez, who has been training new drivers for the past 5 years after 15 years of solo driving, always tells her trainees, the road will humble you. Just when you think you've seen everything, Mother Nature will throw something new at you. Stay humble, stay alert, and always respect the power of weather and physics. Those two forces don't care about your schedule or your confidence level. As the miles roll by and the rain gradually ceases, the truck stops thin out. Drivers who were waiting for the worst to pass climb back into their cabs and fire up their engines. The convoy continues, scattered across the highways, each driver in their own metal cocoon, yet connected by this shared experience of the road. The night wears on. Somewhere, dawn is approaching, though it's still hours away on this particular stretch of highway. The rain has moved east, and the stars are fully visible now, brilliant against the dark sky. The only sounds are the reliable hum of the diesel engine, the whoosh of tires on still wet pavement, and the occasional burst of chatter on the CB radio. Inside the cab, the dashboard lights cast a soft glow. The GPS shows the route ahead, hundreds of miles still to go. But that's okay. This is the job. This is the life. Mile after mile, load after load, season after season. Through sun and rain, heat and cold, clear skies and storms, the trucks keep rolling and the drivers keep driving. They're not heroes in their own minds, just people doing a job. But they're the backbone of American commerce, the unsung workers who ensure that when you walk into a store, the shelves are stocked. When you order something online, it arrives at your door. When a factory needs materials, they're there on time. When disaster strikes, relief supplies get through. And they do it all while navigating this vast, beautiful, challenging country, seeing sights that most Americans miss. Sunrises over the Rockies, sunsets over the prairie, the stark beauty of the desert, the lush green of the Southeast, the dramatic coastlines of the Pacific and Atlantic, the endless fields of the Midwest during harvest season. The rain is part of that experience, not just an obstacle but a reminder of nature's power and beauty. The way it changes the light, making everything softer and more atmospheric. The way it cleanses the air, leaving everything smelling fresh. The way it turns ordinary landscapes into something new and different. And so our journey through the rain comes to an end. Though for the drivers out there right now, the journey never really ends. It just continues, one load after another, 1 mile after another, season after season, year after year. Think about them tonight as you drift off to sleep. Somewhere on Interstate 40, a driver is navigating through rain. Somewhere on Interstate 80, another is pulling into a truck stop for a well-earned rest. Somewhere on Interstate 95, a team of drivers is swapping positions, one climbing into the sleeper berth while the other takes the wheel. Somewhere on every highway and byway across this nation, truckers are doing the work that keeps America moving. They're thinking about their families at home. They're planning their next route. They're listening to music or podcasts or audiobooks. They're staying alert, staying safe, staying professional. They're watching the weather, monitoring their equipment, calculating their fuel stops and rest periods. They're being patient with traffic, courteous to other drivers, responsible with their massive vehicles. The rain will come again. It always does. And they'll drive through it again, just as they always have, just as they always will. Because this is what they do. This is who they are. The long-haul truckers of America, the knights of the highway, the drivers who connect this vast country from coast to coast and border to border. So as you settle in for the night, let the memory of rain on a windshield, the glow of taillights in the mist, the steady rhythm of miles passing beneath wheels carry you off to peaceful sleep. Let the stories of the road, the challenges overcome, the dedication and professionalism of these highway workers remind you of the connections that bind us all together. The trucks will still be rolling when you wake up tomorrow. They'll be rolling through sunshine or rain, through day or night, through every season and every circumstance. Delivering, connecting, moving America forward. Rest well, traveler. The road goes on forever, and these are the people who keep it alive. These are the drivers who see this country not as separate states and cities, but as one connected whole, linked by ribbons of asphalt and the determination of people who refuse to let weather or distance or any obstacle stop them from doing their job. Sleep peacefully, knowing that somewhere out there through the rain and through the night, the trucks keep rolling. Always have. Always will. This is the pulse of America, the heartbeat of commerce, the dedication of everyday heroes who rarely seek recognition but deserve our respect and appreciation. Good night and safe travels, wherever your own road may lead.